everybody. Welcome to the B System, where we dismantle the narratives, follow the hidden trails, and expose the truths behind history's biggest conspiracies. It's Emily today, and I got Daniel and Michael with me talking about JFK assassination. Speaking of conspiracies, I'm sorry, I'm just going to... This is where conspiracy theorist term started, with the JFK assassination. But anyway... Daniel, Michael, thank you for joining the show tonight and being part of the BS. How are y'all doing?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure being here.
Daniel's Russian tonight.
Duh.
He went on the cruise and he came back Russian.
Well, it's better than coming back something else.
That is true, man. Oof. Man.
Well, I'm just glad you're back, Daniel. You didn't get lost at sea or anything. You didn't jump off the cruise to ship or anything. That's one of my biggest fears.
It's not like one of the ports that we went to was Bimini, and I didn't realize how close the Bahamas actually is to the United States. Like,
that's pretty close.
Bimini is really close, like day shuttles across the water to Bimini from Miami. It's like 60 miles from Miami to Bimini as the crow flies. So yeah, it is close enough that I was actually, when we left the port, I was actually able to see the Miami skyline on the horizon.
Well, you know, you're ex-military. You could swim that easily. Even if you got lost at sea. Even if you got lost at sea, I believe you would be that one person. It looked like, what is it? Tom Hanks. Sorry.
No.
Coming out of the water. It's the beast of the ocean.
No.
No, it's Daniel.
No.
AKA Russian.
No.
Daniel,
There are things in the water that can cause great bodily harm to me and swim a lot better than I do. So, yeah, when it comes to the ocean, I typically don't get more than waist deep, and I'm deep.
Yeah, same here. I don't like sea creatures, which we haven't. Well, we got aliens now coming out of the sea, and that's a whole other topic. We're going to talk about JFK. I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but we're streaming live on Facebook, X, and Rumble tonight. So please heart this video, share it out. I am risking this on Facebook this evening. And real quick, before we get into the JFK assassination information. That kind of sounded professional or something. I want to play a clip. We're going to do a little flashback, which we should have already played this clip, but I messed up.
All good.
We're going to go back. We're going to play a little clip from 1991 about the JFK assassination. Also, real quick before we do that, support the B System. Buy us a coffee. Help us. We're getting to the point now. All these years doing podcasting, I've never asked for money, but we're at like the cusp of really going big and making some good money for our show, but we need help. So support, buy us a coffee, or go over here, and I'll put these up during the show tonight. Subscribe to exclusive content. Starting in December, we're going to have subscriber content only, and after show fun, all those kind of good things here at the B System. But let me play this clip here, and we'll be right back. We're going to get into the JFK assassination. New documents have been provided. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and we appreciate your support. So here we go.
Establishes 3 shots in 5.6 seconds. Here. I'm Oswald.
Time me.
Go.
Time?
Between 6-7 seconds.
And that's without really aiming. Key is the second and third shots came almost right on top of each other. It takes a minimum 2.3 seconds to recycle this thing. The other problem is there was a tree there, blocking the first 2 shots. By the time they kerned the Zapruder film.
Didn't J. Edgar Hoover say something about that? Leaves had fallen off in November?
It was a Texas live oak, Chief. It sheds its leaves the first week of March. So you take this Carcano, world's worst shoulder weapon, and you try to hit a moving target at 88 yards through heavy foliage? No way. Yeah. FBI tried 2 sets of tests. Not one of their sharpshooters could match Oswald's performance. Not one. And Oswald was at best a medium shot. The scope was defective on it too. I mean, this is the whole essence of the case to me. The guy couldn't do the shooting. Nobody could. And they sold this lemon to the American public.
This Zapruder film is the proof they didn't count on, Lou. We gotta get our hands on it.
That means we have to subpoena Time Life.
Let me ask you something, Lou. Why not just shoot Kennedy coming up Houston? There's plenty of time. He's out in the open.
I know, I keep asking myself the same thing.
It's a frontal shot.
Even if you miss him for the first shot, if he accelerates, you still got him for the second shot. No, the only reason for waiting to get him on Elm is you got him in a triangulated crossfire. Right? You put a team there, down at the fence, for a frontal shot, flat, low trajectory. Put a third team down here, in this building here, on a low floor. Kennedy gets the kill zone there, it's a turkey shoot.
How many men?
Okay. Not one shooter, say one spotter on a radio, maybe 3 teams. I'd say these professional riflemen too, Chief. They're serious people. Hunters. Patient. Takes skill to kill with the rifle, Chief. You gotta figure that's why there's been no execution of a chief executive with one in 200 years. 3, 2, 1.
Three, two, one. JFK assassination. What is it, 61 years now? 61 years? Yeah, this is 61. This is fascinating to me in many ways, and we'll get into the show. But here we are. Like, none of us were born back then, right? And we're still fascinated with the JFK files. So before we get into the show in details and some other videos and some new documents I've released, Daniel, Michael, what do you all think about JFK assassination? Do you think it's conspiracy? Do you think it's Oswald? What do you all think?
100% not Oswald. I think he was a scapegoat.
He was a patsy.
Oh, I thought you were going to expand on that.
No, just a little comment.
To me, I would say 0% chance it was Oswald. And there's a lot of evidence here in Dallas, near where I live, that shows something was up. And so I feel like there were multiple shooters for sure.
Multiple shooters. When you say multiple shooters, do you think that they were outside the vehicle and not inside the vehicle that JFK was riding?
So I feel like in the sewer system was one, because, and the reason I say this is possible, Dallas, the city, cemented over the sewer cover on Elm Street at the assassination site. It's the only cover I've ever seen that's been concreted over. Why would you concrete over a sewer entrance unless you're hiding something?
Has anybody gone? Do you know of anybody who's gone down into the sewers in other areas and tried to navigate to that manhole cover that was cemented over?
Not that I know of, but they showed that if you were to stand on the ledge there, you would have the perfect sniper shot.
Talking
And
about from the
nobody
grassy
would
knoll?
hear. It is by the grassy knoll. And there is a bridge where they say there's bullet holes in the bridge that they feel like could be from the JFK assassination. And so like Oswald may have missed the car completely, hit the bridge, and somebody else finished him off. And it's interesting you mentioned in the car, Emily, because
Mhm.
I've recently heard stories of how the driver was the one who took him out.
Well, I have a video of this with somebody that actually witnessed the original video that was. Now, this video I want to play. It is lengthy, so if we want to play it now, we can. It's about a 7-minute video. It's a guy on TikTok too that's breaking it down easier as well. But there's a video that was played to the public that's been absolutely photoshopped. And if you go back and you do, and I pulled the original film of JFK assassination that they had out in the public, and the missing tree, the trunk of the tree missing is absolutely there. So that confirms to me that the original video was photoshopped and something's happened. There's a lady talking about it. Let's just go ahead and play this video. Let's just get it out of the way because it's the longest video I have, and we'll watch this together. And let me pull it up. And this guy kind of breaks it down. Where is it at? Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Oh, no, here it is. Here we go.
About a year ago, I did a video on the JFK assassination, more specifically on the driver of the presidential limousine and whether or not he possibly pulled a pistol and shot the president in the head. And I've been studying the JFK assassination for 35 years. I majored in history in college. I used the proper historical method and did a lot of research on it. And I got comments like this. So when you're saying this, are you talking about in contrast to this video?
But then he slowed it way down. And it was so slow that you could almost see the air moving. Then you saw the driver take a gun and go like this and shoot Kennedy, and the bullet comes out of the gun this slow, very, very, very slow. And it hits Kennedy in the head, and you see everything flying out of his head. And I'm thinking, this isn't the tape I ever saw before. So I said, is this a doctored tape? What's this about? And he said, this is the original one. And I said, no, you know. And he says, well, I'm going to show you the one that you've seen on the media. Now, the next tape is your typical one where the driver just keeps driving, never even flinches with the gun. And he stops the tape.
See the tree?
And he says, look at the tree. And there's the top of a tree growing in air. And he says, this is the one that you're seeing on the media. And it's been doctored.
Oh, that's funny. To capture a handgun bullet flying through the air, you need a camera, a special camera that captures 20,000 frames per second. The Zapruder camera, which was an 8mm camera, captured 16 frames per second. So there is absolutely no way, number one, that a bullet could be seen on the Zapruder film. You've got this
So
Netflix film.
see, this is what I don't understand, and I don't know, Daniel, if you know anything about this with the gun, but it doesn't matter. It's still on film. Can't you break down the frame no matter what period to check for the bullet?
Yes. So what he's saying is absolutely correct. Your typical bullet is moving somewhere in the neighborhood of, depending upon the caliber, 1,000+ feet per second. Like,
So even in film though, if you break it down by half frame, whatever, you can still see an object in the air moving, right? It's not going to be invisible.
If it happens to get picked up in that frame at that exact moment, yes. But if the bullet's moving faster, you know, like he said, the camera that did this Zapruder film that he's talking about, 18 frames per second. A bullet, in order to capture a bullet leaving a firearm, and you need to be a minimum of like, 1,000 frames a second.
Okay. Speaking of frames, the frame that we're talking about that actually took Kennedy out is 313, which is my birthday, March the 13th. I see that number a lot, but we're having a call-in number, folks, and the area code is going to be 313. We already have the number, right? We have the number, Daniel, right?
Yes, we have the number. We're just not going to throw it out there just
We're not going to
yet.
throw it out yet, but we're going to have a call-in number. The area code is 313. That's the frame that took out Kennedy. Michael, any opinions about what he said so far?
You know, I have to say, as many times as I've watched these films and I've seen both of them that you're showing, I've never noticed the floating tree. And so when they pointed that out, I was like, how did I not see that before? This tree standing in midair is bizarre, but yeah,
Well, because
I
I mean,
mean,
in the doctored film, it looks like that white wall that you see in the background. It looks like the base of that tree, the trunk of the tree, could be growing behind those bushes or even behind that wall.
Let's see if I can
right.
go back
And
here.
also, I have to
Yeah.
say, Emily, you hit on a point that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to, and that is there are shots fired, and the driver in the film they give us does not react. Nobody would have zero reaction to bullets coming near their head.
Well, and it would be a perfect bullseye shot because people, if shots are fired, they're looking everywhere else. They're not looking inside the car. They're not paying attention to the driver, the passenger of the car, or anything. And then right before the shots were fired, the Secret Service was told to step down. Remember that?
They
And
were.
they were said to step down. And there's clips of Secret Service hopping off the back of the vehicle there, and like putting their hands up like, what the heck, why step down? But they were given direction to step down. So I believe this lady. I believe that I do think that she saw an object on camera that's possibly a bullet. I do believe the best scenario of this, where you have to think about all of the interaction that's going on here, is super busy. It's Dallas, all this kind of stuff. It's Bush land. We got Bush in the CIA, Bush, Mossad, Israel's involved in all this too, folks. There's just a lot. The Bilderbergs, LBJ, which we're having a rise of LBJ, in my opinion, right now, with Peter Thiel, JD Vance, Vivek, and their Bilderberg. Like, I think history is going to end up repeating itself, not necessarily in a car or vehicle, but things are happening. Like the DNC this year was in Chicago. We got RFK Jr. Being part of the administration now. I think we're going to be seeing history repeat itself. But let's I showed the clip. Let me fast forward a little bit. Let's watch a little bit more of this, and you all comment on it.
Now, let's look at the Zapruder film, the actual Zapruder film, same frame. Well, would you look at that? This is the same frame of the original Zapruder film. It has not been enhanced in any way, shape, or form. This is the color you would have seen in the original film. Look, the whole tree is there. Isn't that interesting? So let's dig into this deeper. And as warning, this is really graphic.
Yes.
Here are the two frames when John Kennedy is hit at exactly the same time. One is enhanced, one is not. In these two frames, you can see the driver's hand on the inside of the driver door in both frames. The only difference is the bottom frame, the colors have been enhanced and it's been brightened. That's all. And here's the head of the passenger. One enhanced on the bottom, one not enhanced. So I'd like you to tell me and prove to me how these are different. Something different than trust me, bro. Because trust me, bro won't work. That little motion.
Can we get that as a
looks
sound
back
bite?
and it
Trust
looks
me,
like
bro.
he shoots the president.
Yeah.
That entire sequence took less than 1 second. let's call it 1 second. He was driving, turned back, shot the president, and went back to driving.
But see, what he's not mentioning either, that JFK was also shot in the shoulder. He has a first hit, and it's in the shoulder, and it's in the medical documents in the shoulder, and then he has a second hit. I think the first shooter missed, and then the second shooter was in the front in there and turned around, and you're going to have about 3-4 second delay on that to turn around. And I've seen the videos of the driver turning around, and almost maybe possibly not driver, passenger. It almost makes me think that he didn't even, if it came from the passenger, like he'd even turn around to shoot him in the like he just put the gun over his shoulder. He didn't have to turn, and he missed shoulder. And then the next time you have a lot more movement with him to get him again through the head.
Well, and what's interesting, and I don't know if you have this footage, but I have seen film of the car coming towards, and when the shots are fired, there's 3 people in the front seat, 3 people in the middle, and then the 2 of them in the back. But in other films, there's 2 people in the front, 3 people in the middle, 2 in the back. So the question comes in, who is that missing person, and why is he only in certain editions of the film?
Here, I can share. I'll share a, let me stop this. Share screen. So this is what I have pulled up. Here we got 2 people in the middle, 2 people in the front, and then, but see, they dunk down. These people in the middle dunk down. Remember that? Can you see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
These 2 people in the middle dunk down. This guy right here, you see my mouse, I believe was the shooter. And I can't remember his name. And here's the Secret Service. We got 2. See him holding the car here? And they are told to step down like 20 seconds before the shooting occurred.
They actually were told to stand down before the turn was made.
Right.
He had a whole lot of detail, and then they all like jumped off the car as they were making the turn and were asking what is going on. They were shrugging their arms saying, what is going on? You can see it in film.
Here's another picture here on that.
But do you know who else was at the JFK assassination?
Israel. Prime Minister.
Bush Sr. was there.
Bush Sr. Like, there's so many conspiracies behind this. Like, we got Bush Sr., we got mob, we got CIA, we got Israel, even the FBI involved. But we all know all these people collude. Like, they all collude, and they're all like the ones that really run the show is the Bilderberg group, which is the Warren Commission and everything.
Right.
So, like, there's no doubt in my mind that Oswald did not shoot. He was linked to CIA. So was Jack Ruby, CIA. And this is all during MK Ultra stuff and all these things. And there's no doubt in my mind that this was a collusion of different governments, different societies to come together to eliminate JFK. And then they had the patsy of Oswald.
Well, and what's interesting too is throw in the mix. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but hours before the assassination, an officer who was a dead ringer for Kennedy was shot and killed on the street.
Yeah.
And so some people question, was it really Kennedy in the car, or was it that cop? Because you got to remember, Jackie, I mean, as stressed as you are, when you get to the hospital, she kept saying, that's not my husband.
Yeah, but do you think she was shocked about what happened? I mean, literally, this happened right in front of her. Like, I would be in denial.
Well, you'd be in denial that it happened, but I think you would still recognize your husband.
So do you think JFK is still alive, or do you think JFK Jr. is still alive?
I don't know about JFK Jr., and I think JFK might have been still alive, and I think recently passed. But I, there's too many things to question. What happened here, because there's so many loopholes. I mean, even Jesse Ventura, I believe
Yeah,
that's his name, the
Jesse
governor.
Ventura. Yeah.
He went down, and being military trained, he tried to replicate and couldn't replicate from any standpoint, and was given documents that he never released about what happened from the CIA. And Bush Senior being there, the CIA's there because he
Yeah.
was the head of the CIA. Why else would he be there?
See, here's 312 frame. This is where they said he got shot in the shoulder. He gets hit in the shoulder and then he falls forward. Jackie's checking on him, and then the next shot, the 313 frame, is where he gets hit in the head. And honestly, the direction and the angles, and these people, look how he's moved out of the way. Like, he knew these people here. I don't even know who they are. I'm sorry,
I
folks.
think Connolly. I think
Uh,
Governor Connolly.
They moved out of the way. I remember them moving out of the way and dunking. And so this is where JFK, in my opinion, there was two shots, one through the shoulder. He felt it. He moved forward. He bent over, and then the guy in the front. That's the angle. It has to be that way. The guy in the front to do that. But
Well, and Daniel might be able to help with this. The one question I've always had, no matter what footage it is when the headshot supposedly happens from behind, his head goes backwards.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you're shot from behind, the head should go forwards, not
Forward.
backwards.
Correct. Yeah. So a traveling bullet has momentum. It has a lot of energy behind it. And when it impacts the target, it's going to transfer that energy to the target. And it's going to continue pushing that target in the direction of travel.
And I just want to throw this out here, folks, with the CIA. They hired, there's a whole big book. I read parts of it years ago. I can't remember all of it, but they hired magicians to help them do some crimes and kill offs and things. They've learned how to use, magic with their hands to be very slick shooters, slick everything. Like, I think this is almost a magic trick in many ways, skills learned through that. There's a book about it. They do way more than like just turn around and shooting. They're not going to make this obvious at all. And he could be so practiced and in tune and practice this over and over and over in a building in Russia. No, it's probably Israel. It's the Jews. Here we go again, Daniel, with my Jews. That
Keep Russia's name out of mouth.
that we we got comments too. I haven't been going over here. I'm so sorry.
The Soviets, not the Russians.
It's the Soviets back then. But the he could be very, quick with his hands, throwing up a gun. Who knows how long he practiced this or whatever. I swear I think it's a guy in the car.
Well, hell, he could have had a damn zip gun for all we know. Concealed up his sleeve.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards the driver because he's in the perfect
Yep.
position to turn, shoot, and go back to the wheel. And
No,
nobody would be the wiser.
No, but the driver's at the wrong angle. If it was the driver, we would see Kennedy's head snap back and to his right. But every video that I've seen, that impact is coming
Look at the driver's
from
head right
the
here.
right-hand side.
Look at the driver's head. It's turned.
So that
Well,
shot, that impact, that's coming from what most people
Has to
would
be
say is
coming.
the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, one shooter, multiple shooters. What do y'all think?
Definitely multiple shooters. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Here's what we know about Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald served in the Marine Corps. Lee Harvey Oswald was an average to substandard Marine at best. And what I have here says in December 1956, well, first let me backtrack. Every Marine is a rifleman. What that means is, regardless of what your job, what your MOS, military occupational specialty, regardless of what you're in the, every Marine, first and foremost, every Marine is taught how to and has to qualify with the service rifle. A perfect score, they've changed it in recent years, but even when I went through boot camp, a perfect score was 300 points, shooting at distances of 2, 3, and 500 yards with an M16A2 with iron sights. When Lee Harvey Oswald went in, it was the same thing, 2, 3, and 500 yards, but he would have been using most likely an M1 Garand to qualify. And still, iron sights. He got 212, which is barely enough to qualify as a sharpshooter. You have marksman, sharpshooter, and expert. He barely qualified as a sharpshooter. Right before he left, he had to qualify again. He scored a 191, which was marksman. He did not have, in my opinion, he did not have the training and capability necessary to pull off the they're talking about.
There's something interesting too around JFK that I came across, and I haven't been able to validate it, but it's very interesting. Is JFK was originally supposed to go to Chicago, and when they were plotting in Chicago, they had picked a spot where the motorcade was going to go between two buildings, and they had lined up 3 people who were going to be the shooters, and they were going to take them out in Chicago. And a guy told his girlfriend, and the girlfriend told a cop, and they said, "Oh, I don't think this is real." Well, word got to the higher ups that were plotting and said, "Chicago's blown. Now what do we do? Let's go to plan B, Dallas."
Well, Chicago back then was ran pretty much. Well, I mean, JFK and then they owned that mercantile building up in Chicago, which we know a lot of mafia and stuff deals with merchant tile fabrics and all that kind of stuff trade. And but in that mercantile building, which I think that was the path that they were going to do in Chicago, Hillary Clinton's dad owned a section of that or rented, leased that out. And if you know about Hillary Clinton's dad, Rodham, he took over the mob in Chicago after Al Capone died. So I wonder what was going on up there in Chicago at that time that make him change it to Dallas, because then we go to Dallas and that's Bushland. George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush. Like, it's how many of these agencies have all come together to take out one man and then be hush hush about it all?
Yeah. Well, I can answer why Dallas, because Kennedy was supposed to be meeting with, I forget what his name is, but it's, oh man, I'm kicking myself. I can't remember his name, but he had a meeting lined up right at the end of the motorcade, and they were going to expose theoretically a lot of the deep state and what they were doing with Vietnam and everything. And so they're thinking that's why he was taken out, because he was never it was Berkner. He was going to meet Berkner.
Supposed to meet with Henry Lodge on the Vietnam situation?
No, it was Lloyd Berkner, who was a huge name in Dallas, and they had written a paper and they were going to expose a lot of stuff, but Berkner never exposed what the paper was in the paper letters, and so it's got buried because everybody was like, no. And so I'm gonna look up and see if I can find Lloyd Berkner with Kennedy and see.
Real quick too, we do have Nancy Pelosi playing a part in this as well, her father. And by the way, Nancy Pelosi's, just real quick, January 6th, when all that stuff happened, all of her father's criminal records were released. And I've gone through a lot of those. It was released on January 6th of 2021 during the insurrection. So they do a lot of this stuff, as we all know, false flags, all this to, like what happened during Tyson, the Tyson fight. It's like the whole time, I'm watching this, but I'm thinking, look, what's Congress doing? What are they doing behind this? Like to redirect everybody to look somewhere else. But Nancy Pelosi's dad had a part in all this too.
Yeah, and I just looked up Berkner and why that was so important. And Berkner was with Admiral Byrd.
Oh, Admiral Byrd. That's the guy over Antarctica, right?
Right.
Here we come with the aliens again, folks.
And
Daniel, do you have a soundbite for the aliens?
No.
E.T. phone home.
You will believe.
No.
There you go. How's that for your soundbite? You will believe.
Do it one more time. He'll record it real quick. No, I'm just kidding.
The truth is out there.
You will believe.
There's just so much behind all. There's just so much. Why are we still fascinated with this though? Because we've had the assassination attempts on Trump now, and like I have been affected by JFK, and I was born in the 80s, and now I kind of understand like having that threat towards Trump the way it happened. Like I can't, like if something happens to that man, it's going to be devastating to this country and this world. Like, do you think we're going to see a cycle of the rise of LBJ? In my theory, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see history repeat itself?
I don't think so, because there's
go ahead,
one
Mike.
difference. And the reason why a lot of people don't let go of JFK, Emily, is because it was televised. It's the first time you got to see it in real time. If you think about it, Lincoln's assassination, people didn't know till months later because of how slow news traveled. So this was real time. The whole country knew the same time. And so it's like one of those momentous moments of everybody can say, where were you when this happened? What were you doing? And they remember because it's been burned into their brain, this traumatic event. And so with it being televised, they can't repeat it. And so they have to change up their tactics, because now people, if they repeat like Trump doing the same thing that they did to JFK, everyone's going to go, wait a minute, this is just like JFK.
Well, I think that July 13th was similar to JFK. It was the same side of the head and everything, but just on top of a roof rather than in top of a building. I mean, that's still top of a building. I mean, it's kind of replay.
Right, but look
We
at
have a
how
lot of
fast.
LBJ references. We got Biden LBJ in it. We got the convention up in Chicago LBJ. Like there's posts on the White House Facebook page talking about LBJ.
Yeah,
And I think LBJ is JD Vance.
I don't know. And I mean, that's the other thing that was very strange that a lot of people were asking questions about is why did LBJ, the vice president, have an inauguration speech prepared in his jacket the day of the assassination? It's like there was no time to write it. He literally had it ready to go.
And I'll insert here, and then I'll let Daniel talk. Sorry, Daniel.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'll insert this, but people don't know that JD Vance used to be a writer for New York Times. He did a lot of articles supporting Obama. It's the conservative that loves Obama. He has an article called Obama and Me and everything. The very first article that came out on the New York Times after he was announced as, and this is after the assassination attempt. This is a Thiel. This is a Bilderberg move. I think Trump got tied up in that, and with a bullet going past your head too, what would you do, right? So we got this green politician that came out of nowhere that had Thiel money, and he opposed Trump, and he was losing. So he thought, well, just much like DeSantis down in Florida, and they're both Yale people. So is Vivek. Vivek's Yale. He decided to change his mind on Trump, and then he started getting votes and everything. So the very first article out of New York Times after JD Vance was announced as VP and accepted that position was he's already going to be Trump's successor. Already pushing that. I'm like, what is going on here? Who does that? Like, especially a more liberal magazine, right? And it would be, I'd almost think that they would nitpick JD Vance being a green politician, all this stuff, and just follow the money with him. And it's Thiel, it's CIA. Thiel's a CIA contractor, CIA asset. Vivek is a CIA asset. Same thing. Vivek's Ohio. JD Vance is Ohio. It's all coming together. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something with Trump. And this is just a guess, folks. This is just a guess that JD Vance would become president and Vivek would be VP. That's it. So, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, follow that up.
Yeah, no, I honestly forgot everything I was going to say. No, I think we are going to see, I think we'll see an attempt. I don't think we're going to see Trump get assassinated, but I think we will see another attempt.
I think, I don't know, something about next summer, or if he even gets in office in January. But anyway, do you think, now we talk about CIA and all this stuff. Do you think Israel's involved at all with this assassination attempt on JFK?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
The fact that everybody in Congress has to swear an oath to Israel before they swear the oath to America does make me wonder, how involved is Israel in our politics?
Well, every state, you can go in and look, every state has to donate to Israel every year to military funding. Every state, even your cities. Ashland, Kentucky, where I'm at, has to donate so much money, has to send so much money to Israel. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Now, I thought I was being really super smart and clever and got new documents that proved that Israel Prime Minister was in Dallas during that time. And I was like, yes. And I got these files. And then I started looking it up, and I found it on X that there's a video of this guy. And this just came out like a month or two ago of these files. So I'm just going to play the video because it's easier for this guy to explain it and listen to what he has to say about these documents.
Breaking discovery today in JFK's assassination. It is officially confirmed in U.S. government records that the Deputy Chief of Staff of the IDF was in Dallas the day JFK was assassinated. Last month, I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the National Archives, and they just got back to me today. The reason I submitted this request is because a few months ago, I read a memoir about the former Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin. His widow wrote the memoir in 1997, and in it, she wrote that Yitzhak Rabin was in Dallas the day JFK was assassinated. She writes that Fort Bliss was a stop on his military briefing tour. I couldn't find anything online confirming this, so I submitted an FOIA request to the National Archives for information regarding this trip. Today they got back to me with the documents. It's pretty remarkable information, so let's get into it. Yitzhak Rabin arrived to the United States with an Israeli team of 7 to 8 people. The day JFK was assassinated, a telegram was sent to the Department of State stating that Yitzhak Rabin would be abruptly cutting his trip short, returning well ahead of schedule. Apparently, this means Rabin did not visit the US West Coast and certainly not the Far East as planned. It states this trip was shortened because of IDF decision-making, decisions on routine changes in IDF top echelon due to be had next week. The second document states that Israelis were actually being trained in Texas on how to use Hawk missiles at the Fort Bliss military base. This is because JFK provided Israel with Hawk missiles at the time in exchange for Israel providing information on their nuclear weapons program. Another document shows they wanted to keep this visit very low profile, so they actually prepared a contingency press statement 1 month in advance. You should stress the routine nature of the visit and fact that Rabin, one of many foreign military VIPs who periodically tour US military installations. Also interesting to note, at the time, US policy focused on maintaining a stance of impartiality between Arabs and Israelis. Israelis were upset with how, quote, existing informal arrangements left gaps in the Israeli defense system. However, it was doubtful that the US government at the time would be willing to address that. Questions that arise are, who were the 7 to 8 Israelis that arrived with Yitzhak Rabin, and where were they when JFK was assassinated? And also more clarification on why the IDF decided to end their trip so abruptly and well ahead of schedule. If you find this interesting, shoot me a follow for more.
So I have those documents he's pointing out here. Let me just share my screen real quick, and I'll just pull up what's interesting too with window. Where is it? Are y'all still with me? Did I cut out?
Nope, you're still here.
Okay. Here we are. So can y'all see the screen now?
It's a green screen, yeah.
Okay. It's classification. I got all the documents. I pulled them all, but here's where it says that General Rabin, Deputy Chief of Staff, called the key U.S. military office in the case of Army visit key U.S. military installations during the period of November 5th through the 23rd. So they were ending the day after that.
Did her internet just go out?
It's kind of funny that her internet went out, but we're still seeing her screen.
Yeah, right as we start talking about this too. Let's see. What do we got here?
But do you agree that it's so prevalent in people's minds that we don't let it go because it's something we actually witnessed?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If, we'd had live television coverage happening at Pearl Harbor when the attack happened, it would be the same way. Yeah, it is the first time.
Sorry.
As you stated. Oh, there she is.
Oh, we'll have to stop talking about her then.
That's okay. I can listen. I don't care. I can handle it. I can handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Dude, I start bringing up these documents, and guess what? We freeze up, or I freeze up. So anyway, subscribe over to the B System. I'm going to put these documents over there, and y'all can have them look through it.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Go be a subscriber. Here's the QR code. Scan that baby. Subscribe to the channel. I will be posting those documents tonight or tomorrow, so you can read through those FOIA request. But keep whatever you all were talking about. Keep going. I don't have much more. I'm going to talk about Trump and releasing the JFK documents because he was supposed to do this term, but he talked about that on the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm going to play that clip. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so, all right. I'll comment on it like this. It's no. I mean, we train foreign military all the time.
Mhm.
I remember when I was in boot camp at Paris Island, we had this one drill instructor, and we had a few DIs in training, and during their training cycle, they will actually put these DIs with live recruit platoons for a few days, week, couple weeks, something like that. And I'll never forget this guy because he could only say, Marine Corps drill instructors are some of the funniest people you'll ever meet. But this guy could only say 2 American English phrases. He was I want to say he was Ugandan or something like that, and he only learned how to say 2 phrases as a drill instructor. He'd get in your face and he would go, "Say something." And as soon as you opened your mouth to say something, he'd cut you off and go, "Shut your mouth," and then turn around and walk off. And that was all he'd do.
Funny.
Say something, shut your mouth, and then turn around and walk off. And we, I mean, God, well, I worked with Korean Marines, ROK Marines. I worked with British Marines. Like, it's no secret. We train with and alongside foreign military. We will pull in weaker militaries and we will train them how to fight, how to use weapon systems, so on and so. So that's, to me, that's not unusual. And then even the abrupt ending, you know, he was supposed to leave the day after all of this happened. I mean, he's prime minister of Israel, and the president of the United States was just assassinated. Of course, the government of Israel is going to be like, "Hey, you should probably come back over here. Whereas, you know, it's a little bit safer over here."
Well, I'd say so, but I don't think his route was Dallas. They changed his route too, down to Dallas.
Yeah,
His route was east and then California.
Actually, it was either going to be Chicago or Dallas.
Well, that's
And they
Kennedy.
were
I'm talking
wanting-
about the prime minister.
Oh, the prime minister? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The
I
prime
mean,
minister wasn't even supposed to be in Dallas. That wasn't even on his trip, was it? I don't think it was.
yeah,
I don't
Fort
think
Bliss,
so.
Texas.
Oh, was it Fort Bliss? Is that what he said in the video? I can't remember.
They were training them how to use the Hawk missiles that we were giving them.
Okay.
Now, I'm not familiar with the Texas geography. I don't know where Fort Bliss is in relation to Dallas.
It's 9.5 hours from Dallas.
Yeah,
That's why I was
it's
just
not
looking it up.
biased.
Yeah. It's way far west coast. It's way past Carlsbad and Hobbs, New Mexico. It's like on the very tippy, like far west corner of Texas.
Okay.
9.5 hours. See, I don't think he was supposed to go to Dallas at all, but there is where he was physically in Dallas in the paperwork, the CIA paperwork, or what the government paperwork that they released. And
Yeah.
so anyway, go subscribe to the B System. I'll post those documents tomorrow. For that, because it's just very suspicious of how everybody's routes were changed prior to the assassination, and everybody had to be there to witness it and what happened. So real quick before I go into Trump's talk with Joe Rogan, what do you think has happened to JFK's brain? Because there's
I was just going to say that.
What do y'all think happened to his brain?
Well, I don't know.
Stolen? Do you think it's buried in Arlington with the body, or do you think RFK Jr. might have it?
That would be a really interesting keepsake memento.
I mean,
Well, it
somebody
would be a
snatched it.
bombshell because I always thought, in the back of my mind, the reason the brain disappeared is because the evidence of damage wouldn't match the story. So that would become the smoking gun of the assassination didn't happen the way they said it did because the brain doesn't match.
It says in 1966, President Kennedy's brain disappeared from the National Archives. Some have suggested that his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, may have destroyed it. Most historians regard the autopsy as the most botched segment of the government's investigation. Where's his brain? Dude, if that is the president of the United States and that's my brother and they're holding his brain in National Archives, that's it. We're planning. We're going to break in. We're breaking in. We're getting my brother's brain out, and nobody's going to see. And the respectable part of me is I would bury that brain with my brother, but, everybody's watching that grave and everything over the years, the internal flame, all that kind of stuff. I would probably just bury that brain on a piece of land, a family-owned land. So I'd know all of his body is buried.
Yeah, but you're forgetting if the brain shows, say, 3 bullet holes versus 1, then you have evidence he was murdered, and it wasn't
So
what they said.
you think his brain is being preserved in a jar somewhere?
Well, I would say if I was to steal it, I would definitely be preserving it to hold it as leverage. In case, somebody was to come after me, I could say, hey, look, you come after me and I will expose you for this. And potentially, be like a get out of jail free card. But if I'm the family, I would be wanting the truth. And so I would want the brain to be able to look at it and say, this is not what you said it was. He did not die the way you said, and be able to open investigations. So that's the mystery of the brain, is because if it was the family, I would think they would use it to say, wait a minute, what happened to him is not what was told because of this evidence. And we want the truth, but they don't do that. So that raises a question of, either it's been destroyed to hide evidence or it's being hidden for some reason.
Daniel, what do you think about his brain gone?
I honestly don't know. I've honestly never put much thought into it.
To me, it's like it would be the same as like the Declaration of Independence disappearing. I mean, this is a national treasure. I mean, this is the Camelot president. If anybody was to being preserved, it would be Kennedy. So that's the bigger mystery, is I think why people so focus on why did his brain disappear is because this is the quote Camelot president of the United States, the most beloved president, the people's
Well,
president.
that's what we have now, the people's president. And when Trump took office, the first time and everything, the baby blue dress and everything, he mimics JFK. They're very smart with, especially Melania's outfits and attire that actually replicas Jacqueline Onassis, which, Onassis, she still stayed married into those bloodlines.
Yeah.
We're dealing with bloodlines here too. It's spiritual as well. And oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, was you talked about Melania's outfits. There are a lot of the people on, I don't know if you give credence to the Q movement,
No,
but they
not really.
view that there are comms in her outfits. Like there is evidence, like, she wore black and white one day,
Yep.
and they said, oh, that's, a comms about military is doing something because that's military, is black and white. I was like, I don't know if this is true or not, but it does kind of fit how Trump operates. Is he puts comms in all his posts, and so I'm like, hey, if the president is doing it, why wouldn't the first lady?
Here, I got a video real quick. I'm just going to share my screen. I don't know what this is. I just looked it up, so I haven't watched it or anything, but let's watch this for a second. It's just City Dreamer.
It didn't take long for the comparisons to start, about Melania Trump taking on a Jacqueline Kennedy-like style. In fact, America's First Lady seems to be downright channeling Kennedy, and there are pictures to prove it. See just how many style tips Melania Trump has gotten from Jackie Kennedy, you'll be surprised. 1. Big belts. As you can see in these photos, Melania Trump is wearing a very wide belt, much like the one Jackie Kennedy owned. The First Lady wore her statement belt during a visit to Saudi Arabia, and it's reminiscent of the one Kennedy wore in this photo of her and JFK, in the yellow Oval Room of the White House. Who wore it best? You decide. 2. Trump wore this during the inauguration. During Donald Trump's inauguration, Melania Trump definitely channeled Kennedy with one of her fashion statements. Trump wore a pale blue suit, much like Kennedy's. The only thing missing is a pillbox hat, to match Kennedy's. 3. The Trumps visit Pope Francis.
That's
When
the
the Trumps
funniest
met with
pictures.
Pope Francis in May 2018, Melania complied with the Vatican's dress code. She wore black, and covered her head with a traditional lace veil. When Kennedy met with Pope Paul VI in 1966, she was dressed almost identically. 4. These outfits were practically indistinguishable. When the Trumps visited Mar-a-Lago in February 2018, they had Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his wife in tow. Melania stepped out at Palm Beach International Airport, wearing statement sunglasses, wide-legged white trousers, and a black button-down blouse. Trump's outfit was a dead ringer for the one Kennedy wore when she was leaving London's Claridge's Hotel. 5. Trump has adopted many Kennedy colors. Melania Trump has adopted many of the colors Kennedy wore, including bright red. In this photo, you can see that Melania chose a red outfit that was very similar to one of Jackie's. Kennedy wore hers during a nationally televised
But you know what's
Valentine's
interesting
Day
here?
tour of the
I'm
White
just going
House.
to turn this down some. We're getting the idea of what's going on. There's a lot of mimicking, but the royals do this too.
Right.
Like, you know, they all do this. They mimic these women or Princess Di. We got Princess Catherine. They pull out similar outfits. You know, it's going to be altered and more modern than what it was back then, but they do this all the time. But I don't know. I just feel like history is going to repeat itself. I'm worried if Trump even gets in office on January 20th. And there's just so much LBJ references from people, especially the White House making posts about it. And I went in and looked at the White House Facebook page on LBJ, and nobody's mentioned LBJ in like 10 years on the social media page of the White House until here recently. I think they're trying to tell us something, and I'm going to worry about it. But
here's something else for you. Talking about the connections between Trump and Kennedy. Trump made his Air Force One the same colors as Kennedy's.
mm-hmm.
He's the only president since Kennedy to use those colors.
Let me look up.
It's that distinguishable blue. When you were playing the video and it showed Melania with the blue, I was like, isn't that Kennedy's? And I looked up Kennedy's, and yeah, it's a matched color.
I don't know. All this is really weird. Daniel, any input on that stuff?
No. My only takeaway from it was how much I hate we're using AI to narrate videos now.
Oh yeah, no, I hate that too. it is a robot. But people do it because they hide identities too. I know some people that are creators, but they don't want to anybody want them to know it's actually them. And so they use AI voices to do their videos so nobody can find out what their voice is. So
pay somebody $50 to do a voiceover.
dude, pay Daniel, folks. You hear his voice right now. He's Casey Kasem. Daniel needs money. He has a no,
Okay, don't make me out to be a charity case.
Daniel. Daniel.
I mean,
I was like,
I am, but you don't got to throw my business out there.
Don't use AI. Use Daniel, man.
I was totally gonna do something just to mess with you, Emily, and go, "Welcome to the beast system." Be like, yeah, anybody can do voiceovers.
Dude, I
Welcome
need all
to the
Daniel.
beast
I need you to do voiceovers all in Russia accent,
Duh.
Slavia.
We'll bring
accent.
Russia to beast system.
So
We'll bring beast system to Russia.
Push them away.
So real quick, I want to play one last video. We haven't even talked about Jack Ruby that much or the Umbrella Man. I have all these notes down. I knew this was 1 hour, a little over 1 hour trying to get all this stuff in. It's just too much. But
Jack Ruby was tied to the mafia and silenced Oswald before he would spill.
yeah, he was also connected to CIA. The doctor that come in to visit Jack Ruby in prison was the CIA MK Ultra doctor.
Yeah, and Ruby also was the one who confined what the Warren Commission could look into while doing an investigation of the president.
Well, you know, JFK was really here to mess things up, just like Trump. You know, he was doing executive orders challenging the Federal Reserve System. He was talking about splintering the CIA in how many different directions as the wind blows or whatever. So shortly after all of that, we know what happened to him. So the big thing that here in recent modern times is about the JFK files. And that's what Trump, based off of his first run for presidency, and he won, he was going to release those files. But a lot of people are upset because he didn't do that. So he answers the question on Joe Rogan about the JFK files. So let's listen to this clip, the Joe Rogan interview with Trump.
One of the things that I want to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
So I opened them up partially. I was met with, from good people. I mean, good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me. They said, "Sir, would rather have you not." And I did open them, but I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther King file too, by the way, that they'd like to see. I don't know if you know,
They did the same thing to Martin Luther King.
But JFK in particular. So they called me, a lot of good people called me, people that that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough time.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because
what
a lot of times,
what was the hesitation, though?
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected. And there could be some national security reason that that I don't have to necessarily know about. But some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, would it be possible for us to do that a different day?
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing.
It's time.
So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
Well, the thing, when people look at it from the outside and you sort of imagine what could be a reason why they would not release those files, it would be there's people that were implicated in the assassination.
Yeah. Well, when there are living people, you generally tend not to want to do it. When people are still living,
Living people that formerly worked for the government.
And living people that were somehow involved in it, and you tend not to do that. But it's time to open them. I can't tell you whether or not they're going to find anything of interest. And I did partially open. I think I've opened 50%, but I was asked not to do it, and I thought that was a reasonable ask. But now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it very soon.
So now he's promising this again almost immediately after he gets in the office. So I'd almost think within a week of him getting in office, he would do that. What are your all? Michael has a question for both of us too, Daniel. But I just want to, since we just played this video, what are your thoughts about Trump video and him saying this? Did I freeze up again?
Nope. I think he'll do it just simply because of the fact that now he's on video saying he'll do it.
Okay.
Well, and I feel like Trump does what he says he's going to do, but he didn't really say when he would do it. He just said, when I'm elected, I will share it.
He said
did
immediately.
say almost immediately.
Yeah, but I mean, in political terms, that could mean the first year. That could be the first 6 months, the first month, the first 100 days. I mean, there's a lot of ways to interpret immediately when you look at presidential term time. That's what I mean is, so we can't really hold it to saying, oh, it'll be like a day or a week.
Well, we know that Pompeo is not in his cabinet this time, so Pompeo is not going to be there to tell him what to do. He's
I know. When he said Mike Pompeo was a good guy, I was like, are you sure about that?
He didn't know what he was getting himself into back then.
Yeah.
I still don't think he knows what he's getting himself into now, but anyway, Michael, you said in private chat you had a question to ask us.
Yeah, so a lot of people focus on JFK's assassination, JFK Jr.'s assassination, but I wonder why nobody really looks into and views the same way Bobby Kennedy's assassination.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, Bobby Kennedy's playing a role in all this too with LBJ stuff as well, because wasn't it there in in Chicago during the DNC? Wasn't that where Bobby was assassinated? Was it?
I think he was assassinated in California.
Bobby Kennedy assassinated. I could be wrong. I get dates mixed up. Oh, not Chicago. It was LA of 1968. So you were right. June 5th of 1968. But was that the 68 year where the DNC was in Chicago?
It might have been, but I mean, it's just, to me, it's so interesting that here.
Yeah, that was during the riots, all those riots and stuff. And that's where they had that, in which we were supposedly having riots this year too, up there at the DNC. I swear, this is all a will within a will. That's what I say history is. Everything repeats itself. And I think something is going to happen. I hate to say it. I can't shake it off my spirit. And we need to do a show. Let's look into Bobby Kennedy's assassination and do the connections with that, because he doesn't get enough credit for that. And we got RFK Jr. in the White House now, or in the administration. So maybe we should do some research and come back and do a show on him.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because, like, JFK, there's like people say they heard 4 or 5 shots, but the report only says 1 shot or 2 shots. And so there's discrepancies. So people are like, wait a minute. And JFK Jr., it's like, wait, did he get out of the plane? There was no body. So
but
what happened?
We're seeing that plain as day for the July 13th too. How many times did the shooter get a bullet off? Some people say 2. Then you got the guy up on the water tower. Like, what happened to him? And you can see him moving and everything. Like, there's 2 people up high. How many shots fired? How many shots got off before? Some people are saying 1, 2 shots. Some people said that they heard 3 or 4 shots the guy fired before Secret Service or whoever, fought back. Like, we're seeing this play over, folks.
Right, but
are.
where I was going with that point was Bobby Kennedy's assassinator walked into the room and shot him in a crowd. And so maybe that's why a lot of people don't like go, "Hey, wait a minute, what's going on with Bobby Kennedy's assassination?" Because it was so blatant right in front of people that they're like, "Yeah, nothing to look at here."
Well, I mean, not only that, hell, just
It's a
I
Palestinian too, wasn't it? Wasn't it a
just
Palestinian that shot him? I can't remember. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't mean to interrupt. I think it's
no, just 5 years earlier, his brother was assassinated, and then he gets assassinated. And I think people were still kind of reeling from JFK's assassination because it was the first time anything like that had been televised. That they were just like still in shock from the original event, and then RFK gets assassinated. And well, it's like, Jesus, what's going on?
Well, and here's an interesting fact. You were asking what was going on is Kennedy had just won the presidential nomination in 68 when he was shot at the Ambassador Hotel. And it was a 24-year-old Palestinian, they claim, Sirhan. That always makes me question when you got two names back to back, the same.
yeah. Well, we know what they do. The CIA. It's all CIA. I guarantee this guy's links CIA somewhere.
Yeah. And Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated later that year, and
Yeah.
he gets more publicity than Robert. But yeah, I mean, it's
Well,
interesting,
and
and maybe it is because JFK, is still on people's minds. But I would think if you got two Kennedys killed within the same decade and presidential motif, I would be looking at that.
well, isn't that where the Kennedy curse started spiraling out too? After
It
that, the
most
Kennedy
likely
curse,
is.
conspiracy, all that. Is that Sirhan, whatever? Is he still alive? Did he die?
Saran. Yes, he is.
Saran, he's still alive?
He was pronounced. Oh wait, Kennedy was pronounced dead June 6th. I don't know when Saran died.
He's still alive.
Still alive. I'm looking it up right now. He doesn't have a death date on here.
Nope. He's incarcerated at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility.
See, this is what they're doing. They're trying to play us against the Middle East. And we got this Iran stuff going on right now. This is the same cycle over and over again. And I guarantee this guy, he may be foreign and everything. I don't SBS. Like I agree. There's something suspicious about his name. And then he says he doesn't remember anything about the shooting at all. Like this is kind of like some mind control stuff, which we have those assassins that they still play out in schools to this day.
But this is interesting. Looking at Britannica, it says that Saran is a Palestinian-born Jordanian citizen who was convicted of fatally shooting Senator Robert F. Kennedy on June 5th, received the death penalty, but then it was commuted to a life sentence.
Yeah.
When does an assassination get commuted to a different? And it's like, yeah. And
His attorney in 2011 says that he was brainwashed. Saran's, I can't say his name.
Yeah.
Brainwashed.
Sirhan began directing his anger at Senator Robert F. Kennedy, who expressed support for Israel while campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Well, Saran in Hebrew means wolf. So what's his middle name?
Well, his name is Saran.
Bishara.
Oh, yeah, there it is. He was born March 19th.
39.
He's 80 years old.
Okay, so there's not a direct translation in Hebrew for his middle name, but it does mean in Arabic means good news. Wolf, good news, wolf.
Well,
Sorry, I researched names out because they have a lot of hidden names in this stuff too with the CIA, and they always like to mimic and mock Hebrew. So that's where I go when I first start looking up names. And it could mean nothing. It could mean nothing, but
yeah. Well, according to the Guardian, what's even more interesting is he, even though he was sentenced to life, his sentence was commuted to life. He's out on parole. So it's like, wait a minute, this guy shot up a senator, and his sentence went from death, commuted to life, to paroled. It says at his last parole hearing in 2016, commissioners concluded after more than 3 hours of intense testimony did not. So they said he was up for parole, but he didn't get it.
He was denied in 2016, and then in 2021, in his 16th appearance before the parole board, the board's 2-person panel voted to grant Saran parole after finding that he no longer posed a threat to society. He served 53 years in prison.
Yeah, which is mighty suspicious because you assassinated a senator. How are you on parole?
I find it says here 2 Kennedy's sons and Douglas Kennedy offered their support for parole during Saran's appearance before the parole board.
Well, that could possibly mean that he confessed something. He knew something and maybe traded information, because that's how the government works. If you know something, you can get out of any crime.
All right. Well, I have one final question for you all. We're going to close this out here tonight. We're going to just have to do a show on Robert Kennedy. So with Trump hopefully being in the White House, do you think we'll ever learn the full truth eventually about what happened to JFK?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that?
I think Trump's going to do exactly what he said.
Do you think the documents that we release will just give us more questions, though? I mean,
it depends on how heavily redacted it is.
Yeah, that's the trick. Is they can sit there and say under Freedom of Information Act, here is the document you requested, and it can have one word on it that just says JFK, and they'll say, well, this is all we can release under this because everything else is deemed national security. And so it's like, that's where a lot of people are like, am I going to waste my time asking for a Freedom of Information Act of this document? Because there's no guarantee you're going to even have a document to read. I mean, Daniel's right. They redact things so much that it's like, really, you're really going to fight to get a piece of paper that may have a sentence on it if you're lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally think that it's just going to be more questions. I honestly do. I don't think we'll ever find, especially with a Bush brother being alive, any Bush family being alive. I don't think we'll get the answers until they have died off.
But there is a difference with Trump. Trump will post on social media documents, so he could have a non-redacted form and that has all the information, and he could put that out.
Is that legal for him to do?
Well, he is the president, and as long as he doesn't reveal anything that goes against national security, he can release anything. So I would say, like you said, it's been what, 62
61
years since Kennedy's assassination. I don't think we're going to start a global war with a nation by releasing this form. So I don't see what national security is at risk. However, the names of senators or governors or, military personnel possibly that are attached to that, oh, there might be blowback for them, but that's not a national security issue. That's just you guys backed the wrong horse and now you're going to pay the price kind of deal.
And I just want to throw this out here too, and we're going to close out. But Daniel, do you have any final remarks? Anybody have any final remarks before I start closing out?
No.
Okay, just real quick, George Bush, yell. We got Skull and Bones going on. We got Vivek, yell. We got JD Vance, yell. I think that if the documents are truly released immediately, like he said in the Joe Rogan thing, I think we have a good chance of seeing more documents. I don't think we're going to get the answers. I just really don't. I think it's going to cause more confusion, and we still have these people in the game, and Vivek, JD Vance, and Elon Musk, which we need to do a show on Elon Musk. They scare me. I'm sorry. We're live on X. I'm so sorry, but I don't think we'll get the answers, even if he does release the documents. But it's still a mystery that we all think about. Even none of us were born during that time, and my mom talks about it. She was born at that time, and it still affects the nation. And many shows, many movies over this. And I just think it's just going to keep going until the Bushes and all the Skull and Bones folks are out. They've retired or they've passed away. Actually, probably passed away. So
yeah, and I've seen a lot of movies that talk about going back in time and trying to stop the assassination and never are successful. And they keep talking about this is a pivotal moment, like a focal point in history that had to happen, that you cannot make it not happen, that time itself needed this moment to happen. And when you look at it that way, it makes you go, well, what happened because of this event? Well, a lot of people started waking up and going, what is our government doing? So that may be why this is like a focal point, because it changed people's blind faith in government and started making people question what's going on.
Like what we're doing now. So a wheel within the wheel, folks. But thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Real quick, Michael, I have your link tree posted at the bottom. If you don't mind, people listen via podcast. Where can they find your podcast?
You can find my podcast on YouTube, Rumble, LinkedIn, and on Facebook network pages that are legitpodcast.com, Paralinks, and those are the main Facebook, but mostly you'll find me on YouTube and Rumble. That's the most shared place I put out.
What's the name of your podcast?
Tuesday nights is The Energy That Surrounds Us. Wednesday nights is Writing Through the Unknown. And on occasional Thursdays is Paranormal Verses.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for tuning in tonight, being part of the JFK B System, the BS show this evening. Appreciate you. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please share the video out. It helps our show a whole lot, but we are available on all podcast platforms. Just look up the B System. We'll be there. Next week's Happy Thanksgiving. So I don't know if we'll have a show next week or not. Probably not, unless we want to do a fun roundtable show next week late at night after Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know what you all are doing, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. Please support the show, become a subscriber on the B System, but we'll see you all next time here on the B System. Thank you so much for the support.